Hey everybody, it's Jenny Carr here. I am so excited to have you. We are starting, we're getting there, our Courtney Live, our amazing guest that's coming in. We're figuring out the technology here, so bear with me for just a second. But Courtney Townley is going to be with us talking about, if I can figure this out, talking about how the difference between subtle and passive action and how to get results now. But I think I'm going to have to come back because Facebook is going wonky on me. Oh no, here we go. Hi, if you're here, say hello. This is okay. Sorry, guys. Thanks for being patient. This Facebook technology, they changed. Okay, here we go. So we're inviting Courtney in. And she should be here any minute. Courtney's watching. Hi, Courtney, did you get the invite to come in? Bring them on camera. Bring Courtney on camera. Test, test, test. Okay, my husband's on. Thanks for coming, Brock. Yay. So, you guys, Courtney should be showing up soon. Courtney, if you are not seeing the notifications in your Facebook, shoot me a text. Oh, she says no invite. Let's try again. Request guest, add. Thanks for hanging with us. Okay, Courtney, try that again. A minute, it says it's adding you. So maybe it'll just magically appear in a second. You guys, Courtney is a dear friend of mine. She is the founder of the Grace and Grit podcast, and she's here.
I'm here. I figured it out.
That's so awesome. I'm proud of us. Technology.
I'm proud of us too. I was really worried about it. I feel like I'm shrinking down into my computer or into my phone, but that's the way it'll be.
Like, ooh. Yes, we can see you well, though. It's awesome to see you. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is really, really a very special gift that we all are receiving by having Courtney showing up here today. Oh. Courtney is the founder of an amazing podcast. If you guys have not listened, it's called Grace and Grit. And she's been working in the fitness industry for over 2 decades. She graduated from the University of Michigan with a BFA. She's fully certified as like a million things. So Pilates instructor, national strength and conditioning personal trainer, ACE health coach, precision nutrition level 2 coach. It just goes on and on. But more than really all these incredible certifications, she really does make magic and create magic for a lot of people's lives who she touches. So Courtney, you guys, is really passionate about multi-dimensional approach to health and fitness and integrates the practice of clean eating, functional movement, stress management. She loves to move and share her love of movement with others while also introducing them to the optimal health through healthy living practices, which is kind of what we're going to talk about today.
Yay!
I'm so excited.
So it's so fun to be here.
Yeah. So you guys, if you're here, first of all, say hello, tell us if you're watching. If you have any questions throughout this, be sure to write them in the comments below and we will answer them. And if we miss you during the live, I'm sure Courtney or I can come back, both of us, and answer any questions that you may have because Courtney's in our awesome group. You guys have been so fun and engaging. So thank you for showing up for yourselves. I know a lot of you are feeling incredible results, and that's what it's all about. But I have to say, it took me a long time to get on the clean eating, the anti-inflammatory wagon, like longer than any of my clients have ever taken, if I'm honest. I started eating this way when my son was a baby and he was really, really sick. And I had all these stories and all these excuses in my mind. I was super stressed out and I just wanted to comfort myself, right? And I didn't know how to do it other than to, we were in the hospital for months, and I remember just every afternoon being like, I need to go get my cookie, my giant chocolate chip cookie and brownie, like I need it. And so but in my mind, because I was working with an anti-inflammatory health coach at the time, I was like, but I'm an anti-inflammatory, like I'm eating, I'm following this protocol. Like sometimes we can tell ourselves we're doing something because we like signed up to be in a group like this, or we signed up for some course or something, but like the action doesn't always follow. And yesterday I posted a photo of someone jumping over a bridge, right? This canyon with a bridge between the two canyons. And what I'd like to share is that the gap between knowledge and action is where so many of us fall down. I can't tell you how many courses I've signed up for, how much knowledge I've gained. When I was a teacher, I would like sit in these seminars and be like, this is so amazing. I am so excited to implement all this. And I'd go back to my classroom and I'd sit down and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I can't even like take one step forward. I would just freeze, right? So Courtney's here today to talk about the difference between passive and massive action. And don't be fooled by the term massive action. It doesn't always mean like you have to like hike up Mount Everest, right? Like she's going to walk us through that and how you can start getting results right now. If you're in this group right now and you're like, yes, like I'm seeing it and I want to implement, be sure to listen to what Courtney says, because she is going to give us gold nuggets, lots of them, to help you move forward. So Courtney, with that, thank you for coming.
Oh my gosh, such a treat. Like I said, I always love spending time with you. So it's my privilege.
Yay. And so tell us a little bit about like, what is the difference between massive and passive action, and how does it help us get results like now?
Yeah. First of all, I want to clarify that I think the meat of the work that I do with my clients is I help them to stop chasing results and help them to build a practice. And I think that there's a very big difference in those two approaches, right? Because the diet and fitness industry love to sell us all of these formulas and systems and programs that promise really big results in super short time frames. And while some people may get results with those approaches, they certainly aren't sustainable. The diet industry has proven that to us. But they also, a lot of people don't even get traction with those kinds of programs because, like you mentioned, they just feel so overwhelmed.
Totally.
And so I just wanted to clarify that, you know, just that is the work that I do. Is I really feel that people would be benefited if they gave themselves permission to build a practice instead of building or chasing results. Because building a practice implies that we're practicing something because we're not so great at it. Right?
Yeah,
like
that's
we
beautiful.
practice because we want to be better at them. And so I think sometimes when we come at this work from that perspective, it's just so much more graceful.
You always have the most incredible nuances on our thoughts that makes such a big difference. I really appreciate that.
Oh yeah, I hope so. I hope it helps.
You do.
But massive and passive action. And the reason I think this is such an important conversation is because I think it's really easy. Passive action is buying the course, reading the book, doing some more internet research, shopping around for the perfect fit, you know, a person who's going to serve you. And while all of those things are well and good, if I'm being totally honest, I have in 20 years of working with women through the first 10 years was mostly fitness, but the latter 10 years has all been health coaching. I've never met a woman who did not know what to do to improve her health. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't some extreme conditions that require a lot more research and knowledge, and certainly there's a time for professionals to come in and help. But just like what you're introducing in this program, drinking more water, getting rid of processed sugar, right? We need to get some sleep. We need to be nice to ourselves. We need to move our bodies. These are not things that people don't know, right? So another book, another thing is not necessarily what is going to help us take action. So passive action is, I think, us believing that we need more information. And massive action is really the action. It's not massive. It doesn't have to be massive. In fact, I encourage you not to make it massive. Make it so stinking small. In fact, I use the KISS method, keep it stupid simple. Because when
Love it.
stupid simple, so much easier to do the work because we're not overwhelmed by it. And I'll tell you, a lot of my clients initially get really frustrated with me because they expect me to overhaul their life overnight. But they have proven to themselves so many times that that approach doesn't work,
Yes.
that encourage them to try a different path. And that
Yeah.
different path is giving themselves permission to draw a smaller circle. So massive action does not mean massive action. It just means that it's actually action. It's not just the reading, the researching, the collecting of data. It's the doing.
Totally. I'm trying to remember who I was talking to the other day. I want to say it was Sunny Joy in this group, but someone was telling me that they just changed the way that they had, like, one little thing. They just changed the way they had a conversation. Oh no, it was Jen Eden. They changed the way they had a conversation with their husband, like a half of a sidestep. It was like barely anything at all, and the outcome in the conversation was completely different, right? So that's just an analogy for the same thing that we can do, like the idea of how to remove inflammation from your body without changing your diet. Like, drink water, just drink some more water. Like, that simple can literally begin to transform your health, your well-being. And it's all connected. Courtney, we know this so well. Like, it's all, like, our relationships, our career, our athleticism, like, everything is connected by these simple steps that you teach and that we both teach. It's awesome.
Definitely. And the reality is that simple measures like drinking more water, even though it's really simple, it doesn't always feel easy, right?
Yeah.
It feels sometimes like, okay, this is such a, water's everywhere. There's no reason for me not to be drinking it. Why hard time? And that's the question we need to be asking, is why? Why am I not doing this very thing that I know is so beneficial to my body?
Yes.
And when we're willing to stand in the ring and look honestly at why we're resisting it or not doing it, we can get so much closer to the solution. Because really, maybe you're not drinking water because you just keep forgetting. So, okay, well, that's something we can really easily navigate. How could we keep that in the forefront of your mind?
Yeah.
Have a bottle at all times. Set a little alarm on your phone. I use the same water bottle all the time, and it's really easy to kind of forget like how much water I've had. Yeah. So I like to tie rubber bands around the water bottle, and then I just remove the rubber band. I have 4 in a day.
Oh, good.
Yep. So I know kind of where I'm at. And I'll be honest, I fall short. There's a lot of days I fall short. I don't beat myself up about it. I just look at it and say, what could I do tomorrow that would help me to get all 4 bands off that water bottle?
I love that. Courtney, what are some, as you talk to women and they're like these simple steps that can feel so hard, right? What are some of the, I'm calling them stories, but they feel really, really true. They feel really true, right? What are some of the things that you often hear from people of why, like, what's stopping them from taking these simple steps towards self-care?
I think the language I typically hear is that it's too hard, that they feel overwhelmed, that they're a perfectionist, which, by the way, I think it's really easy to hide behind perfectionism because it allows us not to take action. So be careful of that. I hear that, I don't necessarily hear this in the words that women speak, but I do believe that there is some sort of challenge with self-worth. And so they're not necessarily investing in them. But here's the thing. I think when people find that they're not taking action around something, it's very helpful to go in and ask yourself, what are you thinking about this thing? Because your thinking is influencing your emotions. And your emotions, of course, are either creating the action or the inaction, right? So this is the work, like the diet industry loves talking about fitness and food. They don't love talking about the mindset work because it's difficult and it's a little bit more nuanced, and it's a little different for everybody. And so is the food and exercise, but that's a whole nother conversation. Not willing to do that inner work and become more self-aware about why we're doing what we're doing or why we're not doing what we're not doing, we're never really going to solve the problem.
I remember when I was really, really sick, and I know like all the things to do, and I've been doing this for like 9 years, right? Like I walk my talk. This is my thing. And I remember some days, the days that it probably mattered the most to like simple, drink a gallon of water, push those toxins out, right? Like I remember some of those days thinking to myself, it doesn't even matter. I feel so terrible now. There's no way this could actually help. Like it, some of these thoughts that we think when we feel so bad, or I'm so tired, I'm too tired to pick up the glass of water. I'm so tired, I can't even drink my water, right? Like the symptoms that we're experiencing because of a lot of the inflammation in our body, it's like we can use that as an excuse. And I remember just thinking so often, like, or not so often, but sometimes like I just, that was my excuse for not doing it, right? And I know now that it totally tied in with my self-worth. Like I didn't feel like I deserved it, right? I'm so sick, my body's not looking the way it should, I'm so embarrassed of everything. Like why do I even deserve to drink this water or eat this food? Like, oh well, I might as well just give up now. And hope is everything. And if we take that little tiny step and just say like, but what if I just drink this one glass of water and see what happens? I always say it's like a science experiment because my brain likes to go to like that logical, like, let's just do this one little science experiment. It kind of cuts out the emotion for me. Like just a little science experiment and see what happens. And for some reason that wording for myself can make all the difference in the world.
Totally. The language matters. And I love, my clients get so tired of me saying this, but I always say it's amazing the difference 24 hours can make,
Oh,
you know, and sometimes you have to break down 24 hours into just this hour and then the next hour and then the next hour, because sometimes 24 hours just feels daunting because it's a really hard day.
totally.
Right. But
Or
what
even
can I do?
just a minute, even
Yeah.
just in that minute, like
Yeah.
sometimes that's what it takes, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's so true. It's so true. So self-care and self-talk, definitely. The tape that's playing in your head will hugely influence your ability to be consistent with the behaviors.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and I know you've talked about this, and I know I've done a lot of podcasts on this. I'm a big believer that, you know, as much as we would like motivation to show up and just stick around forever, she never shows up at all. It's kind of like a fluke. And so I believe in like doing some work around why you're committed to the work, right? Like knowing your why. I think that's an important thing.
Yes.
But also for me personally, and for so many of my clients, I really believe that action is what creates motivation. Because we start taking action, we start feeling better. And when we feel better, we want to do more of what made us feel better.
Yes.
So I think sometimes we get so caught up in waiting to feel motivated. And the reality is, I mean, I feel like I've been pursuing better health for the better part of 20 years. And most days I don't necessarily feel motivated, but I'm really attached and desiring that benefit on the other side of the action. And that's why I lean into it. And that's why I show up for it. I always use the analogy of I don't like to pay my bills. I don't like to clean my house.
Yeah.
But I roof over my head and a car to drive and running water, and I love a clean space. And so I lean those actions knowing that I'm getting that benefit on the other side.
That's a great analogy. It's so good. I remember recently I had a client that or often, I'm sure you get this too, Courtney, when people are like, okay, yeah, I totally want to do this. Like I want to eliminate my IBS, or want to eliminate the pain in my body, or like I want to like feel better, have more energy, whatever it is. But I don't want to give up my vodka soda and my chocolate. Like I'll do everything you say, but I do not want to give up that. And my response is always like, that's fine. Let's just see what your body says, like how your body responds, right? Because like you said, as you feel better and better, it becomes addictive to feel so good. It's like, ooh, this is so yummy. I feel so good. I feel so much better than what that chocolate tastes like. I feel so much better than what that vodka soda, what that represents. Like this is so much more, that those things become insignificant. And it's not by you or I telling someone what to do. It's by them experiencing and listening to their body. It's such a profound and incredible experience.
It really is. And I also find that the very thing that we are most resistant to giving up is typically the thing that's depleting us the most.
Of course.
You know, it's just, it is. I've seen that pattern so many times in my own life. Like I most recently, um, this summer, I had a really rough summer and I was literally drinking coffee by the bucket load. Like you might as well have just hooked up an IV in my arm. So much caffeine. And I was getting really horrible PMS. And I had a hormone test at the end of the summer. It just by coincidence, it was around that time.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is, of course, the results of my hormone test definitely reflected that I was drinking too much coffee. And of course, the thing that I always say is I will give up anything but coffee.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But in yet to see how much damage this was causing and how much it was jacking up my hormones, I've been off coffee for 2 months and I feel like a rock star.
Woo!
And I feel because I haven't had PMS,
awesome.
all of that inflammation settled. I mean, I feel so much better, but I definitely was resisting the very thing that I knew was causing me problems.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think sometimes it's food and sometimes it's also thoughts. Like just going back to that scenario when I wasn't feeling well, right? Like I was totally resisting my worthiness.
Yeah.
And that continued for about 2 years and brought me to really dark places. And honestly, that was making me more sick than anything else I could have been doing for myself. Even though I was taking the right action in terms of food or supplements or water, but my action with my thoughts was knocking my ass down. And I did not realize it. And it just became like this ongoing situation.
So what a lot of you for anyone watching to understand is that, first of all, psychological stress is influenced. It can be either real or imagined. It doesn't even have to be a real thing, which is why when we worry or we have anxiety or we tell ourselves lies, it matters.
Yeah.
Because that imagined stress, your body doesn't really know if it's real or imagined. It just knows there's a perceived threat. Totally. And so your hypothalamus triggers, right, this whole cascade of that triggers your pituitary and then ultimately your thyroid and your adrenals to pump out cortisol into your bloodstream because you're constantly thinking all these negative thoughts and your body's kind of panicked because it's not really sure what's going on. And that cortisol elevates your blood sugar. And we know that cortisol and high blood sugar cause a lot of inflammation. Yeah. So it is like such a reality that psychological and emotional stress, real or imagined, can hugely influence our inflammation.
Isn't that amazing? And how we are living in a time period where stress is rampant. It's every day, it's everywhere. And the way that we respond to stress, right? The way that we choose to attach ourselves to it or not can make all the difference in the world. What I found going back to actions and basics, right, is when I cleaned up my diet. To me, I always say the pot of gold is not even in how great my body felt, which was miraculous in and of itself, but it was in my thoughts. It was in my thought process. It was how good I felt mentally and emotionally. And when we look at that from a scientific level, our large intestine and our liver are the largest producers of neurotransmitters in our body. If they're freed up with inflammation from all the inflammatory things that we're constantly putting into our mouth, all of a sudden they're like, "Ooh, I can now make neurotransmitters." It's so cool, you guys. So we think differently. We can think more clearly. We can feel more grounded. We can move through stressful situations in such a different way, more graceful.
More graceful.
Right. More graceful.
And I think that, I think men and women are in this group. I don't know if it's largely women though.
It's mostly women.
Yeah. And I think, women, I feel like if we really analyze how we're thinking, we're not very nice to ourselves. If your best friend or your kid or your husband spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, you would probably be horrified and you would not tolerate.
Yeah, you'd be divorced.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So doing that check-in to see what is the tape that's really playing in my head, and is it nourishing me or is it depleting me? Because again, real or imagined stress can greatly influence, our hormonal system and ultimately our inflammation. So I think that's definitely important to remember.
It's amazing. So we've talked about actions, we've talked about our thoughts, we've talked about how inflammation plays all of this, and also this idea of like not being on a diet, right? But really, really this greater concept of just of you put it better than I did, but moving through life in this process of journey.
Building practice.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've talked about all these concepts. If we go back to like what is going to make the difference for everyone listening here, like what are, are there the top two tips, or like what are, or even the formula, like the way we thinking out loud, what is going to help people move from this passive action to massive action, even if it's a small step? Is it thinking about our why? Is it committing to ourselves, looking at our self-worth? Like, what do you think is the top one or two things that can just, like, I imagine a car that's like on the edge of a cliff and it's just hanging there. Like, what's going to tip us off so that we can start to experience how good we feel? Because once we have that, then we're like, oh, sweet, off to the racehorses. Off to the racehorses? Off to the racetrack.
Why not? I like horses.
Okay. We'll go with it.
The first thing I would say is that in order to get out of passive action and more into massive action, we must give ourselves permission to be messy.
Ooh, love that.
We have to give ourselves permission to be messy, because consistency is not synonymous with perfection.
Yes.
It is simply not, right? Consistency is showing up even when you screw up, or you trip up, or you do a face plant. It's just getting back up the next day and beginning again, and realizing that progress is not linear. It's rarely, if ever, linear.
Yeah.
It's just up and down, and sometimes you take a step forward and then you take 3 steps back. That's very, very normal. Yeah. So give yourself permission to be messy. And then the second part of that is, when you are messy, and you will be messy, because massive action, the reason we avoid massive action is because we don't want to risk failure.
Oh, truth.
That's why we don't take action.
Yes.
We're safer by not taking action, because then we don't have to prove to ourselves that it's hard or challenging, or that, we're going to screw up a little bit. So that's why you need to give yourself permission to be messy. And then second of all, when you do find you're being messy and not doing things perfectly, which is most of the time, instead of beating yourself up, you just need to look at what is going on with curiosity and with kindness, and ask, hey, honey, what's going on here? What's really going on? Yes. What do you need from me now? Instead of sucks and it's against me and all the terrible things we say to it, what if we just said, hey, what do you need from me? What can I do to support you right now?
So good. It's what we teach. Like, my kids have learned in school that if they hurt someone else's feelings, they walk up to them and say, how can I help you feel better? What if we said for ourselves, what can I do to help you feel better? Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's huge.
And all that. That's the other follow through. That's the action, is you have to honor that answer. Maybe you just maybe you need to get outside and away from your family for 10 minutes. Whatever the answer is to that question, the real work is in the follow through.
I've had chills 3 times, and you talking this last segment. It's so good. I'm like, yes,
I got chills too. So something there,
It's, you guys, soak in these words. Listen to the replay. Like, this is such important, simple, but profound work to help you get those results. Yesterday, or was it the day before, someone in our group shared, they were like, today didn't count because I messed up, and so I'm starting over again tomorrow. And my response was like, let's, again, like, what do we need now? And she shared a little bit more. She's like, I put a candy in my mouth out of habit. She's like, but then I took it out. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is like the biggest win in the world. Like, that is not a failure. Like, you have awareness. You're seeing what's happening. You weren't feeling good about it. You asked yourself, what do I need to feel better? You took it out. But the glitch was how this person kind of beat herself up, like we all do to ourselves, right? Like, oh, it wasn't a good enough day, I'm starting tomorrow. And I
Yeah.
thought, what if we just start right now? Like, look around, what's in your fridge, what's available to you that makes your body feel good, and let's just eat that right now. Like, that's the, like, if you're listening, like, the biggest gold stars, because this is the work that Courtney and I are talking about. That is so huge. But we become so critical of ourselves for making like the simplest little mistake or side, and it's not a mistake, it's an opportunity to learn, right? It's just a little sidestep.
Absolutely. And we've also gotten, I think, a lot very far away from listening to what our body actually needs from us. So I love that question. Like, what does self-care look like right now? Because it doesn't always look the same. In fact, it honestly is not often going to look like what you expect it to look like.
Yeah.
Self-care now might be going to the bathroom and taking a pee. Like, that might be
I love that so much.
right.
It's
like
true.
might just be putting yourself to bed, at that time where you're getting crabby and you're exhausted and you've been up since 5 o'clock. Like, it's just time. It's not always about food and exercise and all these things that we tend to hyper focus on.
Yeah.
Those are important things, but often they're not the answer to that question. There's other things.
Well, and it's these little answers to what self-care is that actually leads us to the bigger action of the food or the exercise or whatever, right? That is really, again, amazing nuanced thoughts that always like bring such insight into me. I'm like, because I always think like self-care is like a bubble bath and Epsom salt bath. Like, for me, those are like some of my favorite things to do. A walk in the fall, like with gorgeous leaves. But then I think like, what was my self-care last night was going to bed early. I had these nightmares last night. Never have nightmares. I woke up and I did a gratitude meditation to like put myself in a different vibration. Like, these things that I don't necessarily always do, but then again, just asking like, what do I need now? This is what I needed in that moment. So that's really, thank you for that thought. That's awesome.
Can I say one other thing about compassion?
Yes.
Just because when we were talking about this earlier about how important it is to be nice to yourself, and you were talking about yesterday who was kind of beating herself up even though she did a great thing.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a research study done, I believe it was at the University of Wisconsin. But they basically took two groups of dieting women and put them in a room separate from each other. And I think they gave them donuts and they asked them to eat the donuts. And with the one group of dieting women, they really talked them through being nice to themselves and extending compassion. It's just one decision. You can go back to your diet, whatever. Like, they talked them through it. But the other group, they didn't do that. And so what happened? They ate the donut and they beat themselves up.
Yeah.
Well, immediately after the donut, they put a bowl of candy in front of these women and turned on a movie. And which group do you think consumed more candy?
The group that didn't have the talk through, right? The group that was super
critical. The group that was beating themselves up mentally for eating the donut and kind of not being nice to themselves and not extending compassion, they went on to further sabotage themselves. And this is
to comfort themselves.
Yes, to comfort themselves. And also, and you kind of alluded to this earlier too, sometimes when we feel like crap, we tend to make crappy choices. Like, there's, so if we can do just a little something to break that cycle of feeling lousy and be kind to ourselves and just find a glimmer of positivity there, we're more likely to engage with that massive action that we've been talking about.
Oh, I love it. I love it. This is so good. Courtney, thank you. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for this.
So
it
fun.
Was so amazing. I hope you all were able to absorb this, take it in, listen. And again, like, we talk about massive action as just a little step. Like, take whatever little nugget. I'm sure you got a bunch, but like, just take a little nugget that you got and work with that today. Like, apply it and just see what happens. Do a science experiment and see what happens. So incredible. So, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love that because I think it brings it all full circle. It's a practice of follow through with small behaviors. Yeah. Because when we follow through with the small things, they start compounding over time. And that's where we really start to feel transformation and see transformation. It wasn't because we overhauled our life overnight. It's because we were willing to show up and practice consistently with the small stuff.
So amazing. Such good information. Courtney, I'm so honored you came here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, anytime.
You all will be seeing more of Courtney. If I haven't really shared any of this, but there will be an offer for a really awesome program here in about 10 days. And if you do sign up, Courtney is a guest presenter. So more information to come on that later. But Courtney, tell us, where can people find you? How can they Courtney's got so much going on. She's got Facebook groups and she's got amazing podcasts, and she's launching an incredible coaching program right now. So how can people learn more?
Yeah, the best place, honestly, is probably, you can go to my website, graceandgrit.com, because from there you can access everything. But the podcast is on most platforms at this point, and we're 3 years in production. And honestly, if you're looking for just a little weekly boost, somebody to kind of talk to you about these health principles in a really sensible way, that's really what the podcast is dedicated to. It's helping women to take better care of themselves with more consistency and ease. That is our mission. And so there's just every kind of topic. Jenny's been on there twice. I mean, I really have some incredible guests. So that would be an awesome resource for people, if just to feel like they're supported throughout their week.
And I will link, we have, I think, Tanya Harris, who's going to be a guest presenter in this upcoming program as well. She's an environmental toxin specialist. She was on your podcast. Sunny Joy, who's in our group, was on your podcast. I've been on your podcast. So there's like 3 or 4 of us just here in this group that have been on your podcast. I'm going to link in the comments below. I'll link some of those episodes. And ironically, your last episode, I believe, you'll have to remind me who it was with, but I know it was on taking action now, tips for taking action now, and really getting results, right?
Yeah, I think that was just 2 weeks ago, and it was just me. It was a solo episode.
Oh, it was you.
Yeah, it was all me.
I just saw the description. Oh, perfect. Okay, well, get more of Courtney. Get more of Courtney and these amazing tips, and we will put those in the comments below for sure. The links, they're incredible. How many? I think you have over 100. How many?
We have, this weekend we're airing 133.
Woo!
Isn't that crazy? I mean, no. And it's just, this is a great example, though, because with podcasting, I had zero experience. I had no idea what I was getting into. Totally terrified. But I took it in small steps. I reached out and got support from people who were a little further ahead of me. Yeah. I dove in. I took that massive action. And was it perfect? Good Lord, no. Yeah. But the amount I learned by just doing the work, I can say now that it's just such an awesome thing, because it's still, there's always room for improvement, but it's come so far. And that's really how change and growth happens.
It is incredible. I mean, I go to New York City to these PR events, and people are like, "Oh, Grace and Grit, Courtney Townley, yeah."
I love it.
All over the place. So it's so great. That gives me chills, and it's such an amazing way to end this episode. I'm now in podcaster mode. This episode. So you guys, thank you for joining. Please be sure to post any comments or questions. You can tag Courtney in the comments below if you have anything specifically for her, and I know she'll come back and answer them for you.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on, Courtney. Love you, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye, you guys.